What's up internet, I'm Manish from rebelliondata.com and I'm back once again with another SQL tutorial. And today in this tutorial we will learn about sequences in Oracle database. So without further ado, let's start the tutorial. A sequence is a database object which generates integer sequence. We generally use it for populating numeric primary key columns. On this note, let's move ahead and see how we can create a sequence. In order to create a sequence, we use create sequence DDL statement. Let's take a look of create sequence DDL syntax. Create sequence DDL statement starts with create and sequence, both of which are Oracle reserved keyword, followed by the name of the sequence, which is purely user defined, meaning you can give any name of your choice to your sequence. Next we have few attributes of the sequence. First attribute is start with. Here you have to specify a numeric value from which you want your sequence to start. Whatever number you specify will be the first number generated by your sequence. Next attribute is increment by. This attribute also takes a numeric value to increment the sequence by. The number that you specify here will serve as the interval between sequence numbers. The value of incremented by cannot be 0, but it can be any positive or negative value. If this value is negative, then the sequence descend. If the value is positive, then the sequence ascend. If you omit this clause, then the interval defaults to 1. Next attribute is max value or no max value. Using these attributes, you can set the maximum upper bound for your sequence. Always remember, max value must be equal to or greater than start with and must be greater than min value attribute. In case you don't want to set the max value for your sequence, then you can use no max value attribute. Similar to max value, we have min value attribute to set the lower bound of our sequence. As a value, this attribute also accepts the numeric value and should be less than or equal to start with as well as less than max value. In case you don't want to set the lower bound for your sequence, then you can use no min value attribute instead. Then we have cache or no cache attribute. As value of cache attribute, you specify the number of integers to keep in memory. The default number of integer to cache is 20. The minimum number of integers that may be cached is 2. The maximum integers that may be cached is determined by this formula. Specify no cache to indicate that values of the sequence are not pre-allocated. If you omit both cache and no cache, then database caches 20 sequence number by default. Next we have cycle or no cycle flags. Cycle and no cycles are two flags which you have to set. If you set the flags on cycle, then your sequence continues to generate its value after reaching either its maximum or minimum value. You specify no cycle flag when you do not want your sequence to generate more values after reaching its maximum or minimum value. If in case you omit both these flags, then by default Oracle engine will set the flag on no cycle. At last we have two more flags which are order and no order. Order flag guarantees that sequence number are generated in order of request. This clause is useful if you are using the sequence number as a timestamp. Guaranteeing order is usually not important for sequences that are used to generate primary key. Set the flag on no order if you do not want to guarantee that sequence number are generated in order of request. No order is the default flag in case you omit either of them. Hope syntax is clear to you. Now let's try some examples. Let's create a sequence by the name of SQ_demo. This is a simple sequence with the name of SQ_demo, which is starting with 1 and the interval between every sequence is 2. The max value for this sequence is 10 and min value is 1. And this sequence will cache 3 integers at a time and will cycle after reaching the maximum value, which is 10. Also, I have set order flag, which means generation of the number will generate in guaranteed order. Let's execute. Sequence SQ_demo created. Okay, let me close this script output. Okay, there are few things which you should know. First, you can specify any of these attributes and flag in any order. Means order of these flags is not fixed. Second, all these attributes and flags are optional. If you omit all of them, then Oracle engine will create a default sequence for you. Let's see an example. Let's execute. Sequence SQ_demo01 created. So now that you have learned how to create a sequence, next step is how you can use a sequence. To use a sequence, we use nextVal and curval. Both these are pseudo columns of a sequence, using which we can retrieve next value and current value of a sequence. NextVal column returns the next value of the sequence as well as initialize the sequence, whereas curval column will return the current value of the sequence. Let's see how. Let's try to retrieve the current value from our sequence SQ_demo, which we just created. But before that, let me close this script output. Let me also make some space so that you people can see things clearly. Okay, let's write the query to retrieve current value from our sequence sq_demo. Let's execute. And we got an error. This is because before using any sequence, it's mandatory to initialize it first. If you will try to retrieve current value without initializing it, then it will give you an error. And we use nextVal pseudo column to initialize a sequence as well as to retrieve next value of the sequence. Let me show you how you can initialize a sequence by using nextVal pseudo columns. But before that, let me close this query result. Let's execute. As you can see, the value returned from this query is the value which you have assigned to your start with attribute. Let me adjust my output panel. Okay, every time you execute this select DML, the sequence will generate the next integer in the row, which means that if I will execute the same select DML, then next integer will be 3 because we have specified the interval between the sequence as 2 in increment by attribute. Let's execute same select statement once again. Value returned is 3. Now once again try executing the curval query which gave us an error last time and see what happened this time. As you can see, this query executed successfully this time and returned the current value of the sequence. This means that after creating a sequence, first you have to execute nextVal query to initialize it and then you can use it. Next we will see how we can populate a primary key column using sequence. For the demonstration, I have created a table by the name of demo which has only two columns. First is demo ID, which is our primary key column and can hold numeric data as its data type is number. Next is demo name, which is capable of holding variable character string as its data type is varchar2. Now we will insert the rows into this table and populate the primary key column using the sequence which we just created. Let's see how. By the way, you can refer my tutorial 32, 33 and 34 on how to insert data into a table, link for which are in the description box. Let's write the insert DML. Let's execute. One row inserted. You can execute this insert DML as many times as you want until sequence reaches its highest value. Let's execute same insert DML once again. Another row inserted. Before winding up this tutorial, let's see how we can delete a sequence from the schema. To delete any sequence, we use drop DDL statement. Say you want to delete the sequence sq_demo which we just created. For that, the statement will be, let's execute. Sequence sq_demo dropped. You can read my blog on the same topic for more in-depth knowledge such as how we can change the definition of a sequence after creating it and many more. That's it for today. Please hit the like button if you like this video and leave a comment or tweet me your feedback, and don't forget to hit that big red button and subscribe to my channel. We'll see you soon with another SQL tutorial. Till then, take care. This is Manish from Rebellion Rider.